Awesome.
Rachel, welcome to the Visionary Life podcast. I believe we've been connected on Instagram probably for at least a year or so. And I'm always grateful to Instagram and just social media in general, as much as it can be a nuisance, that it also allows me to connect with fellow business owner, fellow visionaries like yourself. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm so excited.
And you were saying that this is kind of your first official podcast. So I feel very excited on that level too, that I get to be one of the first to share your story.
Oh, yes, I am super excited all around.
So before we get into your story, I like to sometimes start with some quick fire questions. So first question, where did you grow up and where do you live now?
Yeah, so I grew up so I was born and raised in Prince Edward County, which is the hot spot in Ontario lately.
It
And
totally
then,
is.
right? And then in 2019, my husband and I, we sold our house in the county and we moved to Belleville, which is just like a half an hour drive away from the county. So we're out of the county, but still close enough to go and enjoy all of the perks of the county. And then we've been here, and as of now, we don't have any plans to move, but I definitely think that Belleville move is what started me to really think about our business a little bit more.
Can you actually crack that open a little bit? Like, why did the move inspire
Um,
you to think about starting your own thing?
so when we lived in the county, we lived in a very exclusive end of the county, like in the sense of it took an hour to get to the 401. So it was kind of like off the beaten track. And it was obviously, I had business ideas, but I'm like, well, I can't start a business because no one's going to come see me because it's such a far drive. So when we moved to Belleville and we're right in the downtown core, it really was like, okay, so obviously my vision was teeth whitening. And I'm like, okay, we're actually close to civilization now. And I can actually have people come see me. So why don't I just start my business in our house and kind of get the feelers out and figure out what works and what doesn't. And then it grew from there. But definitely being in an area that gave me more options for having clients actually to come see you definitely got the ball rolling a lot quicker.
When you were living in the county and starting to think about launching a business, did you have multiple ideas that you were kind of juggling? Like, were you just wanting to be a business owner, but not exactly sure? Or were you always set on teeth whitening?
Yeah, so when I was living in the county, I was commuting like 2 hours a day. And like just on the drive home, I just like kept thinking like I want something more. Like I was just getting so frustrated. I was dental assisting at the time. And I just kept thinking like, what could I do? And then so I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I definitely knew I wanted a business. And for whatever reason, when we got to Belleville, it just came to mind. It just happened.
And what were some of the first steps you took? So you get the idea, you're like, okay, I know what I want to do now. But then you obviously have to start taking action and bringing this business idea to life. So do you remember like 2 or 3 of the first things you did to actualize this from idea into real business?
Yeah, so I was super lucky. Even though I was dental assisting, I was also an independent dental sales rep on the side. So I had connections to dental manufacturers, and one product was whitening products, I should say. So whitening gels. So when I kind of got the idea about teeth whitening, I reached out to them and kind of started playing around and seeing what the real costs were. But of course, at that point, I didn't understand like cost and all the real things of a business, right? Like your revenue, your profit. That was all still like no idea. I just got an idea on how much it would be to actually see a client. And I thought that's all I really needed to know. So from there, I ordered some product and just started, which now that I look back on it, I definitely should have planned it out a little bit more. But ordering in the product, like looking at from there, like we've completely done a 360, totally different product, totally different everything. But at the same time, I would have never really learned if I hadn't tried, right? Like it was really just trying the products and just figuring out from there.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it would have been easier to have a little bit more guidance, it was just like learning as you go.
Mm-hmm. I think
And
that almost serves business owners well. Like when they're so naive that they're like, yeah, I just order the product and I'll figure it out
on a
from
day,
there.
right?
And maybe it's not like the best strategy, but the other side of that coin is you could be so calculated. You go in your hibernation cave for like 3 years trying to make everything perfect. And then you've missed out on 3 years of actually delivering a service, getting testimonials, getting results for clients. So I think the way you did it is great. Um, so you said you didn't really understand like revenue, like maybe more behind the scenes of running a business. I know a lot of our listeners feel the exact same way, and it actually intimidates them about starting. Where did you actually start to acquire these skills or learn about them? Like, how did you start to bring yourself up to speed on what it would truly be to run a business and what skills you needed in order to find success?
Yeah, great question. So first thing was I really dug into podcasts. It was just finding a bunch of different podcasts that had insights. And then from there, looking into different options in the community that helped with starting businesses. So there was one program that was linked here and reaching out to them. And that's where they really helped me understand, okay, this is what startup costs are. And then this is actually what you need to get started. And this would be your break even point. And then that's when I was like, okay, even though I still don't fully understand it, it was just starting to kind of paint a picture that I was like, okay, this is starting to make a little bit more sense because I definitely didn't have a business background. So learning this was interesting, but it definitely helped. I really found was hearing different shows, especially like yours, when you do have different people on. And sometimes it's just hearing the most random piece of information that just kind of makes something that you've heard somewhere else just click. And you're like, oh, that makes sense.
So true. And I am totally like you. Like when I need to learn something, I go straight to podcasts because I think that's just the way I acquire info. I'm not necessarily someone to sit down and read through a whole book. I like to be either walking or just like doing work while listening and I absorb it. And you're right. There's usually a nugget in there that I'm like, oh, that's what I need to do right now. And then everything kind of comes together. So it's incredible to have such like a robust free resource at our fingertips. And sometimes even I'll search if I want to learn about like search engine optimization. I'll just search that in podcasts and then listen to like 4 episodes. And I feel like I'm a master after that.
Then it's the domino effect, right? It just all comes together.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel were some of the other crucial elements in starting your business, like either setting up your branding or figuring out a certain skill set? What were some of those other early pieces that had to come together in order for you to launch?
I really found, and maybe it was just because it's such a personal care service, was that I really had to get the basics of the service under like really broken down, like what worked, what was the feedback like. So what I found was really helpful is I really pushed my warm market, like the friends and the family members, and just got them in the chair and tried out the different products and materials. And then I launched and actually started to get more of a cold market. And that's when it was great to kind of figure out what was working and what wasn't. So then once I had a better idea on my products, then that's when I was able to actually bring the marketing together because I realized there's lots of different ways you can do teeth whitening. And I decided to actually build my own gel, so like our own brand. And that was huge for us because then that actually launched us into marketing because we weren't just marketing that we were teeth whitening, we were marketing U Whitening. So that was big, was really starting from the basics of actually doing the service and then building the brand on top of the service.
Oh my God. I can't wait to crack that open a little more. But before we get there, aside from testing on your friends and family, how did you find your first paying clients that were not friends and family? Do you remember like how those first few strangers came through the door and found U Whitening?
Yeah, it definitely was word of mouth from the friends and family. That's definitely what got us our first few cold clients. And it was great because then it also kind of took the almost scariness away of it, because it's kind of like they were warm market. Like you don't know them, but at the same
Yep.
time, it's like you had a connection, and it felt less nerve-wracking, and still just made everything run a little bit smoother, because of course when you actually get into the cold market, and it's like that's when it feels real. You're like, oh, I am a business now.
Mhm.
But the war market definitely helped 100%.
Mhm. And I think that is for anyone who has like a service-based business, that's the best way to get your first few clients that you don't know is
Yeah.
gift your service at a low cost or no cost to your friends and family, your current network. If they love the results, guess what they're going to do? They're going to blab about it to 10 of their friends. And I think often people, they want to just like get outside their current bubble right away. They're like, I don't even want to tell my friends and family about my business. Just send me random leads from town. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like, you got to
Right.
start building with the community that you have, give them some remarkable results, and then the word starts to spread from there.
Exactly. Mhm.
Aside from word of mouth, is there any other way that you currently promote your services?
Yeah, so now since we've expanded, we are more quote unquote mainstream marketing. So we are doing like the social ads, and we're working with a couple different companies to kind of figure out our next steps for expanding our marketing.
Mm.
But right now, to really get the cold market, we are really utilizing social ad platforms for sure.
Mm. So exciting. So you say that you're in an expansion phase or you're expanding right now. At what point did you start to realize that you needed to continue to grow? Like, was your in-person practice becoming fully booked? Was it COVID that made you realize you need to tap outside of your current town? What was the initial factor in being like, we need to go bigger?
Yeah, so if you would ask somebody who's actually coming from the business field and they saw what was going on before we expanded, they would have said, absolutely not. Because we really weren't at a point to get a bigger location. But I really felt restricted being in my home because we just had one chair. So I felt like we were missing out on bridal parties and couple sessions, or just like you and your bestie want to go do something. Like it really sucked to only have one chair. So I just felt this heart tug that was like, for us to actually grow, we need to do it when we're not ready, because for us to get more revenue, we need to be able to see more people, regardless if we have the clientele right now or not. So we kind of did it backwards. Like we definitely weren't at a spot that was like, it's not like we were making so much money. It was like, oh my goodness, we need to be bigger. It was more of, okay, we are plateaued and we need to figure out how we can make more money. So that's
Hmm.
when we decided to go into a commercial storefront, and we now have 3 rooms. So we have 3 whitening rooms, and it's great because now we can see multiple people at the same time, and do those bridal parties or just those fun date days. And it's been good.
That is so exciting. And congratulations for taking that leap before you really felt like you were ready or prepared. Did that come with any challenges, or has it presented challenges going from running an in-home business to, oh my God, now we lease a space and we are practicing, in this bigger studio?
Yeah, it's been definitely kind of like a day by day learning curve. But it's been great. We are super lucky that we lucked out with like a great space, so great landlords and that kind of stuff. But it has been interesting, especially with COVID, with the lockdowns, navigating losing that revenue. because we have had to be closed during certain areas. So we've definitely been pivoting and trying different things. So for example, how you got that whitening kit was we did launch a home kit option, because when we just kept getting put into lockdowns, well, you couldn't see anybody. So we're like, how can we get our brand out there without actually having people in chairs? So we worked with our manufacturer and built that home kit option. And that was super helpful because we were able to pivot and really gear that towards the holiday season. And then also gearing it towards people not in the Belleville area. So it's been able to help us expand that way. And then from there, we just keep every day, we just keep thinking, okay, what else can we do to just keep our brand growing?
Yeah. Yeah. And is the vision to continue with the in-studio whitening and then also to grow the home kit portion? Like, how are you seeing the future of your business right now?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely near future, we hope to keep our in-studio going strong, but also really expanding on those home kits throughout on Canada, ideally, to really push that. And then far future, we hope that after our home kits have been out and about, that we would also be popping up other in-studio locations too. But of course, that's like our big dream goal, but definitely our near future goal is just to get our home kits out of our close geographic area.
Unbelievable. I love how you're so like clear on the vision of where you're going.
Right? We will get there.
Yeah. Well, you will. I mean, it's just a matter of like time and platform building and testing marketing strategies. It's like we always want it to be an overnight success, but it's usually a few years in the making and it really does take time. And then you might have that hockey stick growth that we all want, which is like, oh my God, everything's working. And it all starts to compound into, the success that you one day dream of.
Right. And I feel like everyone says that to me. It takes time. And of course, you just want to be like, come on.
It's like we expect to set up the Facebook ad and then the next day, like see sales in your inbox, and then you look and you're like, none. What do you mean?
Right?
Next week? None.
It's so true. And you can get so frustrated. And I've heard it through a lot of different podcasts, and it's so easy to be like, oh, I know they're right, but it's so hard to actually let it sink in, is when you see businesses that are at different growth stages, but they're also along different parts of their journey, that it's hard because you're like, oh, but why aren't we there? But really it's time.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of wonderful things have happened in growing your business. I'm curious, is there a particular milestone or moment that you've celebrated that you are super proud of?
It really was launching into the commercial space, because teeth whitening is it's kind of an interesting service. It's this weird service where it's, if you're looking for your teeth to be whitened, where do you go? Right?
Yeah.
So us actually launching just a teeth whitening studio seems to be a first of its kind. And we've been super excited about it, because typically either you're going to go to your dentist and pay an arm and a leg, or you're going to go to a spa, or there's lots of actually different options for people doing teeth whitening. But at the end of the day, the really interesting thing is teeth whitening is not regulated, which is interesting. So that's why you can see teeth whitening being performed by non-dental professionals, but it means that they're not providing as strong of a gel as if you were actually at your dental office. So the super interesting thing was, when I started looking into this and just being from dental sales, was since I am a dental professional and have access to dental grade products, we have actually brought that dental grade gel into a spa-like environment, which is super exciting. So we literally kind of are the first of our kind. and to actually have multiple rooms, and it's just a full teeth whitening space that I've yet to see done with the same quality or knowledge.
That is so cool. Like, what a interesting story to tell, because I feel like most of the founders that I've had on this podcast, they have not found themselves with such a unique visionary business model, but you truly have kind of like combined multiple industries and crafted like I don't know, just kind of the midpoint of what you saw you liked in dental teeth whitening, what you saw maybe was working with like a spa kind of teeth whitening service, and actually found like this perfect middle ground that you can serve in your own unique way. And I feel like that doesn't happen every day. So it's really neat to hear from somebody like you who has kind of found this open space, I guess I'll call it. And have you like found anyone even around the globe doing similar, or no?
No, like really looking into it, it looks like, yeah, you're either getting it at one of those two options, or you have a dental professional doing it outside, but it's usually home based or mobile based. No one's really tracked into an actual specific larger space.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it makes me wonder, like, oh no, what are you doing? But at the same time, it's like maybe we just somehow have kind of jumped the gun, and maybe we actually have found something that no one else has thought of yet.
I'm curious because, you know, when you're starting a business, everyone's always like, okay, what's your niche? What's your dream client avatar? Like, describe who they are. Who is teeth whitening perfect for? Or is this like a niche that's kind of for everybody?
Yeah, great question. So this is what I struggled with a lot in the beginning was, of course, podcast. And if you're thinking about marketing, it's like, who's your avatar? Who are you marketing towards? So I had this avatar in my mind, and then we launched into our storefront, and complete opposite of our avatar was coming in. So like we went from it, because I guess really at the end of the day, teeth whitening is appealing to so many different people for so many different reasons. And it's definitely made marketing tricky because you aren't really sure where to gear all of your ad campaigns towards, because it is so all over the map. But it is nice that you do have lots of options, but we are still really playing around and trying to work through that day by day of figuring out how to market, because it doesn't seem to be just one person.
I find it so interesting, just like thinking about your business from a case study perspective, because yeah, it's like your avatar, they all have a dream come true future, which is to have whiter teeth.
Right.
But their starting point could be that they're an old man who just smiled for the first time and he's 60 years old and his teeth are yellow. Or it could be like a 17-year-old who's on TikTok, who's constantly filming herself, realize, you know, but
Literally.
both that 60-year-old man and that 14-year-old girl have the same aspiration.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you collect the people who have an aspiration for whiter teeth? So yeah, it's such an interesting, just like, I guess, thing to think about, how you effectively market to a diverse group of people, but they all have the same dream come true outcome.
Exactly. And I feel like like a squirrel brain sometimes when I sit down to try to figure it out, because you're like, oh, maybe I should go this way or that way. And we're still trying to figure it out, but it definitely is interesting having a service that isn't geared towards one specific sector for sure. It's still a day by day.
You just have to like stalk people who are in the coffee aisle or who are picking up bottles of red wine and be like, here's my business card.
Literally.
It's so funny. So what does a typical work week look like for you at this point in your business and entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so I really try to be at the studio Wednesday through Sunday.
Yeah.
And then Mondays and Tuesdays, I try to do more of the behind the scenes. And then I also am still dealing with dental sales a bit too, so mixing that in. But during the week, it's been a give and take of actually seeing the clients and then doing all the behind the scenes. So it's been busy, and I'm excited for us to continue to grow, but every day is different.
Yep. Yep. Typical, I guess, entrepreneurial answer. Like
Right?
every day, I just kind of go with the flow. It's all different. And you focus on what's the most important thing right now if I'm not seeing clients, right?
Exactly. And fingers crossed, restrictions will be fully lifted soon and
Yeah.
masks will be gone, because I'm really excited for masks to be no longer.
Yeah. I imagine with trying to get to people's teeth while they're wearing a mask, because that's a
Right.
little bit of a challenge and just
And
like strange.
exactly. When we were at some vendor shows prior to Christmas, a lot of people were like, oh, this is really interesting, but like, I'm not too concerned because I have a mask on right now. And I'm like, oh, great. So let's hope as soon as the masks are off, we'll be even busier.
Oh my gosh. I honestly think like your biggest area of opportunity is TikTok celebrities. They're
Literally. I mean,
constantly talking and showing their teeth to millions of people or thousands of people.
it's so true.
The TikTok U Whitening
Yeah.
pillar. Okay, so we forgot to get back to the quick fire questions. So we're going to close out just by me asking you. I think I went on a totally different tangent because this has been so much fun, but you've talked a lot about podcasts being integral in your journey. Do you have any suggestions for podcasts for people who are looking to learn more about business, or one that you're currently learning from?
Yeah. So one that I find really fun, and it's not necessarily fully business based, but it's more just kind of being on the the entrepreneurial journey and just dealing with, everyday life. And it's Empower Her. It's a fun one.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting. It helps me kind of feel human again, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in like, oh, I'm not doing this, or I haven't done this yet. So it just kind of helps you come back down and be like, okay, wait, if you're having an off day, it's okay to have an off day.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That sounds awesome. I've never heard of that podcast, so I'll definitely link it in the show notes for everybody. Do you have any tips for aspiring entrepreneurs, people who are listening to this podcast who maybe want to start a business similar to yours, but maybe they just need some motivation or a dose of inspiration from you?
I would recommend really doing research, and hopefully you're coming from a point where either you've had experience with whatever you're looking to do, because I really would have failed if I wasn't coming from the dental world, because I was super lucky to have had the actual chair side hands-on experience with the products, and then moving into the sales end of the products. Like, I was just able to wrap it all into one with a nice little bow, because I had the hands-on and then the sales end. So I really would recommend, if you are trying to start a business, hopefully you have kind of behind the scene access to see what it would actually look like to do the business from all aspects, because there's always points to a business that you don't realize, and if you
Yep.
don't have your hands in all of those areas, then you might not understand it, and it might not be worth it, right? You have to make sure that you really do understand all of it.
Yeah. Yep. Do your due diligence before you just dive right in, right? And final question is for anyone listening, and I'm sure you've been through it, where they're in that state where they're just kind of in a business rut. Like, you wake up some mornings and you're just like, everything's a mess. Life is chaos. My business is, I don't know what to do today. How do you deal with those entrepreneurial ruts, and what do you do to get out of them?
So I'm definitely still working on
Yeah,
this.
we all are.
I would say it's, as much as you hear it through different podcasts or just different streams of wherever you get your content, is it so common to them say, get outside and eat healthy and all that kind of stuff. And I really do find that if I have kind of got myself into a slump, especially business slump, it's weird to notice that it's kind of like all connected. Like usually if you feel slumpy in your business, you're probably feeling a little off elsewhere as well. So I would really recommend kind of figuring out all together what's going on, because the business is you, and you are your business, and your business can only go so far if you're not doing so hot yourself.
Ooh, yeah, that one really resonates with me. And something I often ponder is like, when I hit a wall in business, is there something that I need to deal with personally? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, is my eating off? Do I need to like have a conversation with somebody who I've been putting that off? There's usually something personal that can crack open my next level of business growth, or just getting out of that rut, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, Rachel, this has been so fun. It's nice and refreshing to hear from somebody like you who's like on this growth journey and who shares so openly. If people want to connect with you as a person, or they want to connect with U Whitening as a business, tell us all the places they can go find you.
Yeah. So on socials, we are U Whitening, and it's just the letter U. So U Whitening. And then online, it's www.uwhitening.ca. And that's pretty much all of where everything is.
Perfect. Yeah. And I'll link both of those in the show notes, as well as the resources you recommended. Thank you so much, first of all, for sharing your story on the podcast. I loved using your kit. It was so easy. First of all, the unboxing experience was really nice. Like everything's just packaged perfectly and easy. And then the ease of use of at-home whitening was really cool. Like I've done the crest white strips before, which I found kind of gross, to be honest. They're just kind of like, I don't know, weird and slimy, and they slip off your teeth. But with the mouth guard and the light that you put in, people will have to go to your website to see how it all works. I found it really simple, and I like that you only have to do it on a cycle. So thank you for that wonderful gift. And I will certainly be reordering and recommending your product to anyone who is looking for at-home whitening. So thank you so much, Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you.